Friday, December 16th. I'm in this pattern. I also this morning, I made a mention yesterday, just to orient, center, and direct. I'm thinking in a field of quantum, in highly scientific, at like the level of physics where I've seen them mention this place in Europe called CERN, CERN, like that level of intelligence that I have no access to, or even a video game programmer in some software metrics where they allow them to go in on a Z plane, um, instead of staying at the X and Y axis of flat GUI, and bring it into a 360 or 3D realm of dimension by adding this other plane of metrics for which the humans did not have access to when I arrived in 1978. In that GUI interface of GUI interface, as a human, in the human dimension, in the human realm, knowing that there's some computer model on someone's axis, I don't know who, around us, and that it could have at some point a physical altercation that could then render one hurt in the field, for which I've had done to me. And it's been a long, drawn out problem, along with the medical field that I can get access to, not helping on the physiological end of it. So not helping me in the manner for which I need. Um, but then there's an integrated piece. It's been a lot of inefficiency. There are coefficients somewhere, but for some reason I keep getting quantum entanglement with inefficiency, for which I'm confused, since this would be my symbol. The square root of 9. In sacred geometry, I hold the hands of time. I birthed from cosmic elsewhere to here, a child who completes the square root of 9 with me, in symmetrics and in root, square root. So, I'm thinking, since safety of he and I are always on my mind, and then by existential, the family law firm that existed, I'm trying to use points of reference. So yesterday I was in the physical realm of my daily whatever. For some reason, they've allowed some black metallic coated glass with some kind of technology with a pattern that spells out, starts with a C, ends with an A. It's a 5-letter pattern. They've allowed that technology out into the North American field. I'm not clear why. And then, since that's not an identity I normally identify myself as, being that I have this in more than just land placement, but I have to route myself somehow with this flag, since I've seen this flag used offshore in other places. Not quite sure how that works. Not questioning it either. Just if I have, since I don't have a second pattern necessarily, to adorn myself with, I decided local surveillance pole that they put up with technology that's used here on the interior, of the state, that whatever, or inside on the island that I'm currently on. I decided to use the technology that's portable that I have on my person with the data, and then the local pole that has some kind of identification feature that it's on the interior in case, God forbid, anything should come up in a question or I should be harmed in some way, for making sure that it routes the correct law firm, the correct family law firm for epigenetics. Um, so I am here, and this morning on the there's several news things, and I'm trying to how to take the human intelligence or the shoestring intelligence, whatever they're putting on this, if you can even call it intelligence. It's, I mean, it's, if you spell it out in Go Spell, it's in, and then it's tell, and then it's I gent. So in gentry, I again, so whether it's cognitively dissident or it's some kind of logical programming, it's, I guess, interpretation. So I'm trying to put some of the pieces together to make a logical thought pattern. Um, one of them, they mention TikTok this morning on CBS. They talk, apparently, because I don't use TikTok, I stay straight to FB and YOU in TUBE. And I'm staunch on not downloading these, whatever they're using. So, I'm staying on reserve and preserve. So there's this thing where the users are mentioning that they'll talk on the phone with some audio, whatever. And then, and I don't know if like this goes into like phantom calling. Like, I don't know what the professionals use in word rendering for incidents. But they'll use their voice and talk with their friends, which also I'd never do on the phone. Um, and then they'll get off the phone, go onto this app, which is somehow integrated with whatever their calling program is, or their ringing program, and it will attach videos targeted at that particular audience. I don't know. Again, like I feel at my level at square root of 9, sacred geometry, and just being like stuck in a series of rooms for which I can't seem to get out by myself. Anyhow, it just seems like this is warping certain things, viewpoints, and so on and so forth, which is really frightening. Also, on Good Morning America, they also mentioned the TikTok thing. They also mentioned something about North Korea in international news about using the fuel as weapons. I'm like, that's interesting. And who are the manufacturers of some of these new cars that are in the area with these fuel tanks with some of the disturbing neuromotor disruption and function that I've been having trouble with. Then it goes into Live with Kelly and Ryan. And they come out with these glasses on that are flashing lights. I mean, for me, it looks like tactical lighting. It's an optical neuro disruptor that throws off neurotransmitters, and it's a visual frequency, which sometimes I see happening in the background of the TV, which is why I use my sunglasses when I'm trying to, but it also is coming at this time where I've never in my life watched this much television. Um, but there's no outlet and there's no communication. There's no field intelligence that I can meet with. It like doesn't exist here. And then I find out on Channel 7 Eyewitness News at 5 p.m. last night, next to Mayor Adams, there's this gentleman or this officer. I didn't know he was an officer. I heard his name. They found me through Facebook, through the FB. Um, he's apparently a sheriff, it says on his thing. Anthony Miranda. He was running for something. I don't know what. Frank, who's in charge of something union, invited me to a Hispanic meeting. I went to the Hispanic meeting. I went into the room and I left the room standing upright. Um, so that's good news. They kept me safe for that evening. It was in Corona. I went there by myself. I went to this meeting. It was in the basement of a building. Um, and it was a community meeting. They talked about different things going on in the city. It was the first time I'd ever been introduced into a community meeting. Wasn't my community. I mean, again, I don't identify necessarily as Hispanic and Latin the way that the locals are identifying as such. Um, but there's this I went into this meeting. They spoke mostly in Spanish, which I don't understand. But I sat cordially and politely, as I always am when I'm out and about, um, and on invitation. And so they he stood up there and he just spoke briefly. It was whatever's going on in there, whatever. So last night I see him on the news in his uniform, which he was not in uniform when I was invited to these things. And again, not really sure how they targeted me or how they found me or why they invited me. But I went. I was in my normal self. Um, and I just listened and I was curious as to how these things function in the city since, again, I don't really have any other version of it. But it's just these little eyewitness news things. So they showed him and a picture of him up on the Channel 7 News last night, which I thought was interesting. Then it went to so this Ryan and Kelly thing with these lights and this distracting. I mean, even as two test subjects being Ryan and Kelly, they themselves came out with these glasses on with these flashing lights around their eyes. They're not even having to stare at themselves from couch potato position at the television. And the lights, Ryan kept having to he kept taking them off because he was having trouble. Like he even says he's having trouble. Um, Almost they're like I think the words that the humans use are distracting. Although there's even worse biological effects that these things do. But yet they're built into some of the programming. And I'm not saying that everybody's iPhone or Android or television blinks in the background, but there are times where the television in New York gets some kind of signal and it's so in the background. But again, sitting so many hours watching it is just, I don't believe it's healthy personally. And so I try to limit the amount of having to search for some of these by shortening the channels that I'll look to, since I don't have any physical contact. Um, so there's that. Then there was yesterday, um, they were doing some of the past US presidents before Technicolor came out on the television when it was just black and white. and on story television, they mentioned something about, and again, I'm not picking favorite past presidents. Really, I'm not. It's just the example that they put up in this one thing for me to use as a visual tool of reference. And I guess they picked Wilson because it says program for the peace of the world, is what it says in the background for Wilson. This is season 1, episode 6. It says program for the peace of the world. So it goes from there, and it says that he and his general from the army, something, they said Pershing, talked about having separate army. That sticks out so much on this. And I'm wondering then, because I see Trump today, and again, there's no opinion, there's no judgment, there's just the facts as the humans are portraying them to the chairs and the couch potatoes. They have Trump, coming out with something called an NFT, almost as a Marvel superhero. I guess it's to try to catch the TikTok generation, since I don't know, do they just not hold interest? I mean, it used to be like back in this day, early 1900s. I mean, the president was a respectable man. He spoke, and it was like the whole room was to be silent, because it's like, this is our one voice who holds foreign policy, who knows about foreign policy, who knows about domestic policy. And if he speaks, like, stop what you're doing, we need to know things. They've, I don't know, almost bastardized the tools of the field and the trade of communication to some showbiz way of doing things. And I mean, now I was listening to my mother and father's version. I'm on the one hand trying to stick up for Trump and be loyal, but on the other hand, and loyal more to the country, in the sense of I still have children here long after Linda and Lou are gone. So that's concerning, in seeing how far this needle has moved on this dial, and where I'm stuck, literally, with no access. And then they come on with if we're talking square root of 9, and we're talking American sports, one of Brother Brady's, or Thomas Brady, he's a football player in the NFL at the American side of sports. He has one of his peers, I suppose is the correct word. I really don't know. I'm not aficionado on this, but coming out saying that he's very loyal to his mother and father, and that he's an absolute icon in his industry. So I'm like, well, that must be nice, being appreciated for being born in this area to America during this time. I haven't been treated with such, and I have a square root that I brought into this world as an American. I would have thought we would have been at least taken care of in a nicer manner, rather than whatever this is in quantum leaps. So that's interesting this morning too, just for a placement of space and time. So now this is Good Morning America, E399.
And then we have an accident on 287.
Now down here it says international news. And it says finds TikTok shows new users harmful content. The second thing is where it says about North Korea and these fuel cells, which really frightened me.
And north at exit 22. Alternate side of the street parking rules are in effect. Michelle, back to you.
Here it says North Korea tests solid fuel engine for new type.
All right, take it easy out there, people. Thank you.
For a new type of strategic weapon. Solid engine, the physical kind, not the algorithm in software programming, not that kind of engine. So, okay, so now the news is confirming for me what my suspicions were in the local area. I'm still stuck here. Now, CBS Mornings E250 has on this TikTok. So while I'm trying to stay as physically fit and upright as possible as the square root of 9, one portion of the square root, in efficiency, I'm watching what the other humans that seem to have enough money, some form of participation in some form of social network, some form of compensation, like they're taking care of these kids. I mean, is that because they're test subjects on this really dangerous equipment? I mean, it's in like the distract them while research and development is doing whatever it is that they do. I'm just curious. Again, family law firm being separate from the rest of whatever this is. Um,
Welcome back to CBS Mornings. There is a growing fight over one of the most popular social media apps, the platform TikTok, owned by its parent company based in China. At least 14 states have taken action to ban TikTok from their workers.
and what I don't understand is, how did China get involved? Again, as far as introduction to humanity between 1978 and 1995, 96, when I got out of high school, going all the way up through the element, through the middle, through the high, I'm just like, why was there no talk of this?
Workers, government issued phones, citing security and privacy concerns. And there's movement on the federal level as well. Scott McFarlane shows us critics say the Chinese government could use data gathered from TikTok to violate users' privacy and influence their behavior.
Emmanuel Divorno has baked, boiled, and bounced his way to an audience of more than 3 million on TikTok.
I just wanted to cook food and just have fun. I know that life is short.
His food is now part of the feed on a platform that's surging with a worldwide audience of more than 1 billion. Perhaps because it seems to know just what each user wants to see.
Like have a conversation.
Why does it look like everyone in these videos is doing something with the business and the leisure office with travel? Like they're able to afford these foods, they're able to like do this fun busy work, these fun tasks. Why is it I'm not even at that level and I'm the square root of 9?
A conversation with my friends and I go on TikTok and they'll like send you something and be like, oh, we were just talking about that.
Its critics say TikTok might know too much.
What are they doing with that data?
Tech expert Thomas Germain of Gizmodo showed us how each TikTok user's swipes and likes sent mountains of data to TikTok.
The length of time you spend on each of those small videos is noted.
Exactly, that's exactly right.
They're
Everything
learning
you're
something from
doing.
that.
Yeah.
That's common among social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram, which want to prioritize for us the most sought after material. And here's what happened when TikTok was given access to our contacts.
And right there, it's uploading And we saw those servers light up there as the data was going up for my phone.
TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, is Chinese, which some U.S. officials warn could make all that data vulnerable to Chinese intelligence.
We do have national security concerns, at least from the FBI's end, about TikTok. They include the possibility that the Chinese government could use it to control data collection on millions of users.
Data is the new oil.
Again, like your personal information, your personal data, my concerns are foreign government imposing some kind of cultural laws that are not enforced or being practiced here, and then coming from out of the blue and harming via either physical harm or by physics in a kinesthetic energy environment within the Z plane of a GUI. That's where I'm really concerned. And I've also no idea what they thought I was doing, not even sure if it was my own data that they were running analysis off of, depending on what was around me in the field at the time, would be what was swaying what data was being used based on the information that whatever. Not necessarily personal preference doesn't exist in this life frame thus far, because personal preference would have been inducted into the family law firm and would have found really handsome, well-dressed, someone special. But that's not what happened here.
Former Justice Department official John Carlin says China could exploit the data from all those teenage and adult users to try to influence their politics or opinions on hot-button issues.
If a teenager is getting their news and political information from TikTok, are there controls that could be put in place to make sure that that information isn't being controlled by the Communist Party of China?
TikTok argues it's getting singled out.
Look, we're certainly a newer entrant to the market, and there are a lot of concerns about data broadly that are not unique to TikTok.
The company announced an initiative called Project Texas to house all of its users' data in the U.S. and to keep Chinese influence at bay.
This would be the firewall. But again,
Bulletproof?
nothing is bulletproof, but for the concerns that are being raised on this, yeah, this is bulletproof.
But that plan hasn't stopped the scrutiny here in Washington. The U.S. Senate just passed a bill to ban TikTok on federal government employee phones. And there's another proposal to ban the company from operating in the United States altogether.
Now, just for separation of whatever, I did notice that they mentioned, which we've already went through in New York, our COVID, whatever. I saw that something happened, and the people actually living in China had on jackets that said, that I could read, that said ancient civilization, which was very helpful since over here I call this modern civilization. And so there's this categorically different way of labeling for this new metaverse, I suppose, or this world without boundaries, where there needs to be some kind of code or construct put in, but I haven't really had much luck with finding the family law firm on this side of modern whatever and being kept in their good graces, not knowing what their expectations are, quite frankly, because I don't know any of them. Now, this Live with Kelly and Ryan S7E75 aired Friday, December 16th. It said it was previously recorded, but that's irrelevant for me at this point. It's more these... I don't think that their intent of wearing them is to maliciously harm the couch potatoes. However, it does bring up a conversation of things that are going on, signaling that I know if I ask Linda, she said she makes it sound like I'm crazy, but I can see it. I also have two parents who have lost some of their ability to hear, but yet I can hear frequency, pitch, and hertz differential in sound frequency in the field at times. There's sometimes like this buzzing in the house. There's sometimes cracking in the house. The floors are uneven. But again, that goes back to particle defragmentization and such, like things that the normal person don't know, don't speak of, and it's not being talked about in the local news.
My glasses.
Calm down, everybody.
My glasses aren't working. I see a bunch of people in the studio.
That's just the effect of the flash from the glass.
Today's National Ugly Sweater Day.
I take great offense that they put us in sweaters with pictures of us on them and then call them ugly sweaters.
We should have worn each other. I
These
should
are
be in that. You should be in
sweaters,
this.
not ugly sweaters.
Is it just me or I can't hear because the lights are flashing? I'm having trouble hearing.
I'm having trouble focusing.
My senses are all out of whack.
I also couldn't walk through the passageway with my fun life vest on.
We can take them off, Gelman, but why? I think host chat with these on will be a thrill for all.
Go for it.
You know, Kelly,
Ryan,
today is National Ugly Sweater Day. Do you ever wonder how this all began?
as a matter of fact, Ryan, I was wondering, how did National Ugly Sweater Day first come to be?
It's funny you should mention that.
Thank you, Ryan.
I can't tell with these glasses on, so I'm going to take them off. Ah, yes. National Ugly Sweater Day. People all over the nation trade their ugly sweaters. They don their ugly sweaters.
What is ugly?
What is ugly? It's in the eye of the beholder. Kelvin, you have a cute ugly sweater.
Yeah, they're just fun, festive.
No, it's not. That's cute. It's actually nice.
Ryan,
Your name.
that's the sweater Gelman always wears.
Every day.
I guess there were two men from Vancouver. They came up with this idea to throw the first official tacky holiday sweater party to raise money for their friend's cancer treatment.
Excuse me? I think it's a very, very noble cause to raise money for their friends' cancer treatment. But let's...
Also, when I tack, TAC, I think a ship or a boat, like a small boat on the water. I went to a birthday party once, and they had sunfish or sun something or other boats. And I was instructed by someone in some of the vocabulary, which I was not familiar with. One of the words was tack, and that's where the sail is looking for the wind in order to pick it up, in order to gain movement. When I was cross-referencing, I went in to translate the program on the Google in my version of Maxi iPad or MaxiPad, PAD. And so it said it had a Hindu or Hindi, HINDI reference for this TICTOK, which then translates in English to TIC, or it goes from TIKTOK to TICTAC. And I'm like, well, now is that the difference between the Eastern and Western philosophies? Again, it gets really hard when there's no two-way conversation.
Not call it a tacky sweater.
Well,
This is not tacky.
No. Beautiful.
no, that's expected. Well, they've become a global celebration now, the National Ugly Sweater Day, December 16th.
Gelman was asking me about my foray into ugly sweaters, and I said, back home growing up in Berlin, New Jersey, they were just called sweaters. I was born of a sweater, people. Handcrafted by my grandmother and my aunt.
But do you realize you speak truth, Kelly? Because your ancestors from way back actually invented the sweater. Did you know that? Right out of Jersey.
Well, of course, that's where all good things come from.
The sweaters where they originated. I don't know if you know the history of the sweater in general. You might be asking, Ryan, what is the history of the sweater in general?
Ryan, what is the history of the sweater in general?
So according to the archives, Kelly, the history of hand knitting garments dates back 2,000 years ago. Your ancestors there
in New Jersey.
I think it might be Old Jersey, actually.
No, it's New Jersey.
No, it says islands of Guernsey and Jersey.
Oh yes, the Isle of Jersey.
I didn't read the article, so I thought it was New Jersey, but
Isle of Jersey.
in an indirect way,
the Isle of Jersey, the Old Jersey.
The Old Jersey. They used to knit sweaters from knit wool in order to make them structured, and then they were hard wearing and thick, as these sweaters had to protect fishermen from the external elements.
Oh, yeah. The Santa Maria was knitted, I believe. Durable fishing net.
You might be wondering, how do I win an ugly sweater contest?
Ryan, how does one win an ugly sweater contest?
First of all, you may have seen some can get provocative. Some can be a little risque. So consider your audience. Don't wear those here or with my mother.
What do you mean? What would be considered provocative? More provocative than the elves on the shelves? And what if you have no shelves to put your elf on?
Some have some slang that they can, you know.
My elf is sliding off of where a shelf ought to be.
Elf on the belly.
Onto the belly.
Let's see.
Keep going.
Yeah, okay, so know your audience. What else do they say? Consider an interactive sweater. Those.
Oh yeah.
You have an interactive sweater in a way, right? That's interactive.
I always love Shirley's Hanukkah sweaters. Oi to the World is one of my personal favorites.
And they also say to win your ugly sweater contest in your neighborhood at home, don't just do cute, do really ugly. The uglier, the tackier, the more likely you are to win. So you will lose today.
So we'll go from that. What in that last clip, it was the lights, the tactical lights flashing. It just does. It stuns and disorients. It makes it difficult to pay attention. It makes it, and then for me, since I'm so highly sensitive to the lighting and this flashing of lights, the NYPD fleet and FDNY fleet changed to some light bulb that looks, they have this militarized tactical lighting where it shows like regular flashlights and then this like tactical flashlight for like if you're in the middle of the woods and there's not like a metro city for like hundreds of miles and you need to like light up like a football field, this one area because you're in the dark. Right. I live in a metro city with street lamps and all sorts of stuff. For NYPD and FDNY to put tactical militarized lighting on their vehicles to stun and disorient the other drivers and pedestrians seems to be a display of aggression for which I'm not comfortable. I've reported it on YouTube and the FB or Facebook. But again, I don't see as many vehicles with lights any longer in my area, which is good. For a while there was a lot of moving, but it's toned down a bit. Anyhow, so now we'll go from Kelly and Ryan to this Tampa, Florida mention on, it's a clip from WTSP. I don't know what that is. And it is one of the sports peers for somebody that plays football that I don't know. But again, I'm a square root of 9, and he has placement in the cosmos very close to mine. Like if life was on a magical escalator, he's just like the step above me in When Did He Enter the Human Arena. in relation to when I arrived. So there's that.
Love that music. Time to talk NFL playoffs. The race is heating up. 4 weeks to go.
And what's really nice is that his sports peer says that he's really loyal, or he's really a good son to his mother and father.
To go in the regular season, and a big matchup is Sunday's game between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Kickoff set for 4:25 p.m. Eastern Time, and you can watch it right here on CBS. Both teams vying for playoff positions. And joining us now for more on all of it, CBS Sports' Jim Nantz, lead play-by-play announcer for the NFL on CBS. Jim, good morning. Simple question.
Good morning,
kick us
friends.
off. What are you looking for? Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, good morning. Hey, Gail, Vlad. It's just hearing the music gets me fired up on an early Friday morning.
Yeah.
I'm on my way to Tampa right after this hit. But look, we all know that Tom Brady's 45. This has not been the season of his dreams, but they still lead their division. And while you have a chance to watch the greatest of all time, you want to watch. And they're coming off a pretty humiliating loss at San Francisco last week, and they're going against a team that won the AFC and went to the Super Bowl last year. So we've got a really good matchup coming up on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, matchup, Jim. We're talking Joe Burrow and Tom Brady going head-to-head. Of course, Tom Brady, as you just said, one of the greatest of all time, but not too shabby himself is quarterback Joe Burrow. What are you expecting?
Well, I think that Joe, first off, he's in that very upper echelon elite quarterback status. People call him because he's named Joe Cool. They compare him to Joe Montana, but I think you had to really compare him to a legendary quarterback. I think his style of play would be more similar to Tom Brady. There's a go-between. Kevin Falk, who used to be with the Patriots, it was a coach down at LSU when Joe was there, said the similarities are almost eerie. And listen, Joe is just a young kid in his mid-20s. He's already gone to a Super Bowl. And sometimes maybe he gets even a little bit lost with the Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen's and now what Jalen Hurts is doing. But Joe is in the discussion for MVP this year, and this team in Cincinnati is on a roll. They won 5 in a row.
It is a guessing game of the season, as you know, Jim, with all the stuff that Tom Brady's had on and off the field. How much longer is he going to play? When is he going to retire? Do you think he's sick of this conversation and this question? And that said, what's your take?
Inquiring minds want to know. I think Tom is probably down to his last year. I'm not going to ever rule him out. It's like when Tiger was not playing and people said he'll never win again. Of course, he came back and won. So the truly great ones, and he's one of the all-time greats. You don't ever say they're not going to be capable of doing something. But this has not been the kind of season that he hoped for. And it's not because his level of play is off. In fact, his numbers statistically are great. There are other issues around this team, physical issues with this team. But can he continue to take being under the media spotlight? Listen, when you've won as many Super Bowls as Tom has, this is his life. He lives it. Everything he does is highly watched and scrutinized. So he's pretty immune to it, I think. But he's human. You know, he's a dad who is a great dad, and he's a faithful son to his mom and dad, and does everything, I believe, tries to do everything the right way. And I know he would like to, whenever that day comes, if this is it, I think he'd like to end this career in style. And that would be in the postseason and making a run in the postseason. And listen, the Bucs are 6-7, but they lead their division. They're probably going to be in the postseason. And you don't want to face him when it comes playoff time. That's for sure.
No, you don't. He's got a pretty good record. I appreciated Joe Burrow's comments about the matchup with Tom Brady. Asked about it. He said, well, he's Tom and I'm Joe, which is accurate. We'll see how it all plays on Sunday. Jim Nantz, thank you very much. Coverage of the NFL starts at noon Eastern right here on CBS. You can catch the Bengals-Bucks game along with the full slate of games starting at 1 p.m.
So now we'll go from that to that's Tom Brady's home office, like the field of what everybody gets to see him play in. I got in New York something else going on. One of the field people just invites me in. I go. thinking it's all harmless, not really sure what they are, kind of witness, kind of seeing. Again, I just got pulled into something called an NAMI for National Mental Illness. Then I've been pulled into like secret underground NA meetings and AA meetings to support other people who invited me there, so I knew what was going on as far as, I mean, like, again, the social allowances and where they're using resources and how they are trying to help some of the people who have gotten caught up in and drag societal work. I get it. I've seen it. I've been here the whole time. Not guilty by association, but just whatever in whatever. Um, just this is not how the square root of 9 was supposed to be. It just wasn't. So now here's the mention. They have his appearance. I mean, for me, at first I watched at 4 p.m. and I'm like, is that Miranda? And I'm like, no. And I'm like, maybe. Because I knew they said that he was a cop. I didn't know if he was retired or whatever. But it's now surrounding this illegal cannabis crackdown in New York City. And then at the 5 o'clock hour, they actually let him speak at the podium and they put his name at the bottom. And I'm like, it is him. Again, not too long ago, Pat McManus was up there, but that was for something that was Dogwood in Mastic, just so Stadium Pub and Johnny Lasagna is aware.
Cannabis sales. They've been popping up all over the city since marijuana was legalized last year. And places like this old school bus converted into an illegal dispensary. So how do New Yorkers know what's legal and what's not? Eyewitness News reporter Lauren Glassberg is here with more. Lauren?
Well, Sade, currently none of the trucks or stores selling cannabis products are doing so legally. Not one of them has a license to sell cannabis. But in a matter of weeks, licensed dispensaries will open throughout the state. And the hope is that this illegal market doesn't damage the legitimate one before it even has its first sale.
Those unlicensed stores threaten the health, the safety of New Yorkers by selling dangerous, unlicensed products.
That's exactly what authorities say was happening out of this colorful, decommissioned school bus in the Rockaways. The operators now charged with illegally selling cannabis, and a crackdown is underway.
The task force lasted for 2 weeks.
So I thought that interesting because I'm like, oh, wait. Some union rep that found me on Facebook introduced me to a meeting. I was looking for work at the time, into this community meeting. It happened to be Hispanic and Latino. Then it was all different types of Spanish. It was a multi-dialect gathering. And then, just like myself, there were 2 people in the room that really, like, I don't know. And they were just discussing in a very relaxed format some of the ongoings at inner city level.
They successfully inspected 53 locations throughout the 5 boroughs, seizing more than 100,000 illegal products, totaling an aggravated value of over $4 million.
Marijuana is legal in New York State, but can only be sold with a license, and the state's 36 licensed dispensaries haven't yet opened. The delay has allowed a proliferation of unregulated sales, and that has undercut the business model, one that is meant to help those most harmed by prior laws, according to the executive director of cannabis management for the state.
It's undercutting not just the market that folks are going to step into, but I think it's confusing to consumers. Consumers are seeing these storefronts thinking that they're selling a regulated, tested product, but what it is, they're getting, contaminated products from who knows where.
Which is why legal dispensaries will be required to use a verification tool and meet certain standards. Labels will offer customers some peace of mind.
Can you tell the difference between what's legal and what's illegal.
Because unregulated items like these that are illegally marketed to kids won't make for a successful, legitimate industry.
We're on a mission to become the #1 global hub for cannabis industry excellence and education and equity across business, science, and culture.
And when it comes to
Nobody's asked my opinion. Nobody's asked my permission. Nobody's integrated me into these rollouts. Something I've experienced my entire existence on this island as the square root of 9. So again, I don't have any idea how to interpret or know how these actions could be setting me back further or putting me further into harm's way. It gets really confusing in like the moving piece of a physicality in a GUI that's already been turned at times against me, and I've been harmed, not only by physicality, but also in this interstellar space. So from 1913 to 1945 on season 1, episode 6 of The Presidents, that's what they're talking about. Again, not picking favorites, not going deep into the beautiful family portrait of whatever Woodrow Wilson stood for or stands for. However, he happens to be the one with some key pieces of information with looking at this world peace, PEACE, and going from the last of the 1940s until my arrival in the 70s, or the end of the 70s, 78, into the 80s, and then flash forward into this year 2022 and what the 45th president, or the former president being the 45th president, what his campaign looks like in the transition from black and white to Technicolor in some visual reference of storyboard.
Wilson was focused on his vision.
Again, it says program for the peace of the world. That was the focus.
For the peace. And central to that vision was his idea for the League of Nations, an international body that could settle disputes without bloodshed and bring an end to war. The League would become his great obsession. As a war president, Wilson mostly kept his hands off and let U.S. Army General John Blackjack Pershing take care of the details.
John J. Pershing said that Woodrow Wilson gave him only one order: maintain a separate American army.
And from my growing up, there was Oppenheimer, there was Pershing, and a few others in clearing houses for the SEC market in the early 80s, before the computers came out, when there actually was a stock market floor, where they actually had paper, where it was actually an inefficient job, but people took a lot of pride in it, before they sterilized it and put everything on big computer screens and ruined the entire business, as far as I'm concerned.
Wilson had brought the United States into the war late and for our own reasons. And one of the ways to make sure that we emphasized how separate our commitment to the war was to keep a separate army. Okay, so I don't know what happened because I don't have access to anything at the family law firm. But here we are at where is the 45th president after that particular president who left office
or went up until, I don't know, went from 1913, it covered 1913 to 1945. So I don't know where in the spectrum this particular one is, but I do know we just had the 45th president. We're into the presidency of the 46th. So let's see what he came out with yesterday as the 45th president. And here we are in full Technicolor. This is what it looks like.
The major announcement the other day. Many wondered if it would be news, about his presidential campaign. Perhaps he picked the vice presidential running mate. Perhaps he had a platform. No, we now know. In a video posted on his social media platform, it was all about this.
Hello, everyone. This is Donald Trump. Hopefully your favorite president of all time, better than Lincoln, better than Washington, with an important announcement to make. I'm doing my first official Donald J. Trump NFT collection right here and right now. They're called Trump Digital Trading Cards. These cards feature some of the...
I like a lot about it, and what I like so much is that he kept the website up at all times.
At all times.
You couldn't find your pen right away. You could get whenever you got it, you got around to it.
I don't even know what to say.
Let me just tell you what they are. These are NFTs that he's announced for $99 each. He's photoshopped as a superhero, an astronaut, an Old West sheriff, and a series of other fantastical figures. Can we just show those? You got to see these photos. Let's just show them really quickly.
Honestly,
these photos are amazing.
For me, the children are the future. So is that the target audience at Image campaign? Again, I don't have access to somebody at the family law firm to ask what are they designing and what's the purpose. And again, how do I get to where square root of 9 really should be at this point in 44 years since arrival date? And
amazing.
I thought it was a deep fake. I had to be convinced. Yeah, I had to be convinced that it was real. And many of his staunchest supporters, they say things like they feel betrayed. People are struggling, losing their country. This is a slap in the face. It feels unserious.
So let's show the audience what we're talking about here. Take a look at these photos. Oh, don't call for it, is what Shauna is saying to me. I thought she said, call for it. All right.
But I would have thought people, the reaction from his supporters would say, yeah, we want one. And you're saying no.
I'm saying that there are significant supporters who have been very staunch advocates of his who think this is unserious and unbecoming, given the moment of time that they feel the country's in.
He is running for president. And
that's not the announcement people thought.
Want to hear. Exactly right.
That's for sure. So, but $95 now, maybe you resell them for more. I don't know. The resale price has not been great so far.
so again, it's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken. And it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.